Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me. I'm here with Katya or Kateryna, Dmytro, and Ksenia. Thanks for coming back for a roundtable Q&A. I've enjoyed your talks, and I hope the audience did as well. We already have some interesting questions lined up, but if the audience has any other questions, please just write them in the Q&A box or in the chat on the right, and we'll try to get to them. Let's see, yeah. Cool. Well, actually, I want to start with, so I know there was a few questions in the chat already, and you guys, Dmytro and Katya, I think you guys answered them in the chat, but I wanted to ask if you had anything to add or wanted to expand on it, because I know when you answer like in writing, it doesn't necessarily cover it fully sometimes.
Yeah, I was covering my part. I think it was about differences in. I just don't see them here right now, so I have to remember.
Oh yeah, of course. So yeah.
Can you say?
Yeah, I think you're probably just in the backstage chat. But the question was, what do you say is the biggest difference between American and European markets? Are there entry barriers in your sector?
Yeah,
that was one for Dmytro.
Yeah, specifically with scooters, it's true. It's a hardware product, so you have regulations. You have to adapt to it. You need certification, and Europe is much more strict than US. In US, you can just drop anything on the street and just see how it works. And in Europe, you definitely have to follow regulations. In our case, we even had to follow German regulations, which is a pain, big pain. But if you fix those, whole Europe, any country is open. You just say, yeah, we have the German one. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, brilliant. So that takes a lot of time, let's say, of preparation, especially on the hardware side. So I was also traveling a lot to China, to the production facility where you need to organize with the local representatives of the German certification agency, kind of the preparation of the scooter parts. For example, specific lights or specific like side lights or braking lights. For example, braking lights cannot shine. They cannot blink. They can only shine. This is like a very weird one, but it's not that easy to solve in a hardware product. And yeah, things like that. This is definitely a problem. But if you're in a country where it's possible, where you have less certification issues, you can go for, it should not be such as a problem.
Well, thank you. Again, I think the other question that was already asked as well was related to tendencies in sales and taking into account that most of the activities are redesigned from offline to online these days. I think that was another question which was related to a few speakers. So again, if you wanted to add anything, let me know. If not, we can go and move to a different question.
I can throw something in there that may be something for you all to chime in. So when we think about offline, shopping or offline content, it tends to be, a lot related to real estate. So where you are. So let's say you're like in a big street, like in Wall Street, you have this big, store. It calls attention. People go in and they buy. Where in the online world, it may be more democratic because the store size, the real estate, is the size of your computer screen or is the size of your mobile screen. That means that everyone has like equal chances as long as they're creating something that's meaningful and valuable. And I wanted to hear like your thoughts on how has that changed for you, because to me it feels like we're like as small entrepreneurs or small businesses, we're getting much more chances to stand out. And there's a McKinsey report that says that 40% of the purchases that happened in Black Friday were through new stores, new shops, and not necessarily the well-known brands. So that seems that we're flattening out that curve of like being super big and having a big real estate versus being like in the same space that everyone else has. Any thoughts?
Maybe I can add something from the point of social media marketing here. Yeah. I would say that I was working with like Russian market mostly, but at the same I had experience with a US market and a European market. And talking from the point of behavior, I would say that European market is completely different with Russian or even Asian or whatever else. And it's very slow in social media aspect. And because of the cultural differences, it's not a main channel for most of the businesses. And people from Europe, they do not spend much time like Russians or American in their phones, and they do not read bloggers that much, and they do not have use the same mechanics. So they don't play games under the posts in like media. And if you want to sell there, you have to have like very logical offers mostly, rather than to make interactions.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I can also quickly add just on the offline thing. I think, I mean, on the online side, it's definitely still competitive. I have to say, I mean, it's definitely not easy to rank #1 on Google. Maybe it's easier to rent a store place and actually open up one like specific shop style, like unique place to sell fashion. Like in Berlin, we have a lot of those where you just have one shop, they're suing it on spot, and you love it. So I think it should not be underestimated how much offline marketing or offline presence can actually help a young startup. Considering the things of showrooms or micro showrooms can definitely pull things forward. Like, with scooters, of course, super easy. You just place them, you have marketing for free. So we actually had no marketing budget the first half a year, or like the first 4 months, like zero, no spend, no team, no nothing. We just place them out there and it goes out. And then over time, it's more for brand building and government relations. But I think it should not be underestimated, but definitely it's an entry zone through online, but you can always support it. And that's always then the question. I think there lies a lot of interesting abilities to run, like have a piece of the sales funnel sort of on offline for any online business, but it's yet not utilized. Potentially there is opportunity inside to get into.
Cool, thank you. Talking about sales and becoming more competitive, like sales basically changing from the past into today. So especially Katya, you were talking about this intensification. And I just wanted to ask, it's a fun little question. Maybe it might be a little too much, but feel free to not answer it. But the question is, so we all know the famous line, "Sell me this pen," right? So my question is, how would you approach change from the past until now, like with this more intensely competitive environment? How did the sales process would change in a particular example like that? So I think first giving the mic to Katya.
Yeah. How to change the process? I would say just get started, like start doing at least like little steps, making a plan, and kind of start to change something in your org if you feel something doesn't work. I mean, we're speaking about online, offline. There is what I see that changed a lot, the way people buy, especially for online world. We all buy and based on references, based on reviews. So the customer experience now is actually what companies, I believe, should really focus on. Even if we speak about sales, like online, as Ed mentioned, like it opens the door for smaller companies, but it also can shut that door so quickly just because it's so easy to go online and publish a bad review, or, you know, it's so that's why if we speak about sales, can you imagine you invest lots of marketing, you hire sales reps, but if, for example, your service is not good, even if your sales speech is amazing, like even if you're really well prepared and you have this customer, customer on the hook, and then the customer goes online and check on reviews, go to G2 Crowd and sees like, oh no, like I don't want to work with those guys. So right now, people are focusing so much on, let's say, even like sales and marketing. And when you talk about like customer experience, like service side, they're like, yeah, we're fine there, all good. I believe this is the key in the online world. Like, feel like when I speak to my customers about, let's say, HubSpot, and I was like, why do you consider HubSpot? Oh, my partners are using HubSpot. Somebody else is using HubSpot. I just know guys talking on LinkedIn about HubSpot. So honestly, that's how people buy right now. You know, like they're asking each other, they go to their networks, they go Google, you know. So when companies are started with the best sales speech ever, with the best process ever, but if you have zero presence online, nothing in there, like it's so much like incredible to sell, incredible to grow. So to change the process, I would say just be more active online, even social media, Google, be more active there, and focus on customer experience to actually win new businesses.
Oh, thank you. Does anyone else have something to add, or a different approach they have? or they would take?
I would just add a little about how we buy offline with online services. I would say that today many things we do not buy right after we see the advertisement in our phone, just because we have a choice and we start to compare the pricing. And so many platforms like eBay and so far, and you can compare the prices and there is a team game. And when we have a brand which doesn't pay for marketing, it doesn't, like any other service can sell this brand because it doesn't have any, people don't know it, and there are so many brands. And so this is the one point. And the second problem here is it's always a big game of pricing, and people especially in 2020, people started to compare prices more and deeper, and they have time to wait the product and delivery because it's quite fast. And if you want to have a comparison price, you should do a huge research every day. And especially this Black Friday shows us a very incredible results, how people choose the prices, and they find on the one platform and buy on another platform, and it makes the world more difficult for advertisers, but still it's a new thing in 2020.
Can I add a point? I love the comments there, but perhaps something else, just a different perspective on this. I think what internet gave us is FOMO, like the fear of missing out. But then what great content gave us is FOBO, the fear of a better option. And I think that's exactly what you said. You're like, you have so many options. Mm-hmm. Even I want to buy a microphone for a podcast. I have 200 options on Amazon. And then I go to another website and I have another 200 options. And then you get the guy you like. And I think there's a question there from Dmytro on influencers. You get that influencer that you like using the microphone A, and then another one using microphone B. And you're like, oh my God, what do I go for? And everything happens for content, for products, in that sense of fear of a better option. And Seth Godin has a really good quote that he says, you need to find your minimum viable audience. And your minimum viable audience is that small group of people who will follow you and listen to you, and stick with that. You don't need to be growing and do everything, because the FOBO for us, the creators, is the fact that we want to create too many for too many people, and too much content that's not necessarily going to be dip in level. So we create a conference, and we want to build from every single thing that you talk about, the conference managers up to the salesperson, up to the technical person. And then you build this insane amount of content, but it's not necessarily in depth, and you don't know exactly who you're targeting to. So thinking about your minimal viable audience will probably help you start at some point that's maybe it looks small, but it's probably going to be enough for you to get started.
Well, can I just add something?
Yeah,
that kind of goes into the 1,000 true fans concept as well, right? I'm not sure that's Seth or Tim or someone in that circle of people.
Yeah,
yeah, that's actually true. 1,000 true fans is super. And there's these 100 true fans, is the updated version, the recent one. And very often, I think if one creates content, then you have your audience. But for example, when you start a business, it's of course questionable what type of solution you have, but one of the best things or the best audience would be your friends. If your friends really buy into it, this could be your first audience. If it's really making, of course, only if there's the audience. But your friends is probably the first one you can go to and see if they really like it. But it's hard to get from a friend and I don't like it thing. But if they're real, you can get an honest conversation, or at least colleagues or people you have been related to over time.
I would say, sorry to interrupt, I would just add the same in bloggers and influencing markets. This is the same. Before it was just about how content looks like, and today it's more about very close to reality content. It's when people share bad experience and good experience, and they share how it is, and they share what was the mistake to use this service to compare with that. And people trust more if they see not just perfect experience.
Yeah, and from the content point of view, if you know like Ahrefs. This is a SEO. So these guys, how they were building the community, like launching courses, really valuable courses, like all the SEO specialists, they love them. So they really subscribe for their newsletters. They really go and watch those courses. It's like amazing how they decided, like, okay, we really wanted to build something for free, which will be really powerful and valuable. And they started to build that community, you know, same as HubSpot community, like marketers who love HubSpot, using Academy of HubSpot, you know. So this is how you can actually build community through the and also social media. Another way to mention, I don't know why, if you speak about sales process, not a lot of sales actually people mention leveraging relationship with the existing customers. Like me as a sales rep, if I have a customer and I see my customer moving to another company, I go and sell to that company. I have a champion there already, right? So that's why experience is so important. I mean, after the sale is done, I pass the customer to the customer success manager. But if the customer comes to me and asks me a question, I never ignore. I try to have this relationship because I know that's my champion, which can bring my technology to any single organization he's going if he loves HubSpot. And I believe like that's why customer experience is important, not just, okay, sale is done, happy, money is there in our pocket, but really try, especially if this is a startup, to make those first customers so happy that they refer and they spread the word and bring your tech from one org to another, because people are moving fast like every 2 years from one company to another, and you can really like make those sales from one champion. So from my experience, honestly.
Cool, thank you. I think that kind of plays into, we have a couple questions in the Q&A box actually. So one question is from Benjamin. He's asking, speaking about influencers and too many options, how can social media become more authentic? So I think that kind of plays on what you were saying about creating these like good customer experiences. So if you guys have anything to add, please.
Drift, another example of social media. Drift, Gonk, guys, Gonk, I think they're best in social media strategy. Like Gonk, they're very genuine, authentic, and they're really so active on LinkedIn. Even like, just an insight, I know they were doing lots of webinars, and after the webinar, they were asking, look guys, we will share with you that checklist if you mention us on LinkedIn, Facebook, say that you've been on our webinar. They really build that LinkedIn community so fast, and now everybody knows Gonk, like every sale. Sharing something valuable. If you really want followers, you need to give some to earn, not just like a pitch and beautiful image. People want to learn, and in any content strategy.
I would add that there is the biggest mistake what people do now. I believe that we all know the word expert. We need to be an expert, but usually the company makes sense that they are an expert, but usually they are not. And this is an issue because I don't value the information. I just see the advertisement, but I don't use the suggestions or advices or brand books or whatever. And I like for example, the Later service, it's official partner of Instagram. They have the Later program. It's a software to make an auto posting in different media. And when TikTok started, what they did, they managed the conference for 2 days of TikTok influencers with like 3 million followers in TikTok when it was just growing. And they were sharing just right real examples how they post, and it was a manual. It's not just something inspiring, but it was practical guide how to put your plan, and it will work because you have to post 6 times a day. I didn't know that you have to post 6 times a day in TikTok to have like a level there. And there are many tips and tricks which were very practical. And usually when I see all the guides which like brands post, it's very basic and like something which you can find in a Google, and it loses the value. Try to find what you cannot find in a Google.
Yeah, exactly. For some companies, social media, I don't know if you agree with me, but for some companies, social media is like happy sell to Valentine's Day, Happy New Year, kind of posts, and we opened a new office, or we hired a new person. Like, guys, nobody cares on LinkedIn about your company news. Share something really people care about, but for some companies, they really think that social media is just like, I would say, empty posts. There is no informational quality in there, which won't work anyway.
True. Oh, thank you. I really wish we had more time because there's so many more cool questions in the Q&A box at this point. Do we have one more? Maybe one more? Let's see. Okay, so final question. It's kind of like directed for everyone, is what formats do you see as the most engaging ones online for community building conferences like ours, like deep dive short workshops, meetups, where everyone can participate directly, like in Zoom virtual parties? So what's, yeah, I hope that was clear. What formats you?
Yeah, I can start. So obviously, the more you can trigger senses, the better. So if you have voice, video interaction, the more you get them to stick with you. Obviously, podcasts are getting to like it's becoming like a hype again. It was back a hype. I think all of us here probably remember early in the 2000s, podcasts were growing and then it died and then came back in the last 2-3 years. And then you get like Joe Rogan and people who are really big rebuilding that. Platforms such as, well, most of them actually, but LinkedIn, YouTube, they value a lot watch time. So how long you stay within the platform. Instagram is no different. So if you create long form content that will make people stay, that's what's going to benefit you for the perspective of the algorithm in the platform. And then from the perspective of how do you deliver that? And I think back to what Ksenia was saying is like delivering like 6 TikToks. Like how can I do that? It may look insane. But if you build like a 2-hour long conversation that's like a podcast format, you can transform that into perhaps 100 mini episodes that can go on forever on any social media. So it may be like a longer and a bigger effort initially, but then you just hire an editor to cut that into like 100 5-minute pieces and then maybe a couple of 30-second pieces that will go on TikTok. And you're done for like a year. But you can, I would say that format, that long form for the benefit of the platform, it also shows value and authority. And then if you want to actually build something that's quick, once you have that long form, you just chop that into pieces and just share the big ideas on that throughout social networks.
Cool, thank you. I think actually, I'm sorry guys. I think actually this is all we have time for. I'm already getting, the studio is getting mad at me a little bit already. So if you guys want to keep chatting, feel free to just connect on the platform or outside the platform on LinkedIn. I think you all shared your contact details. You can also message and make meetings within Pine. So please feel free. And the questions that haven't gotten answered, please get in touch with the speakers. I'm sure they would love to have a chat with you guys.